Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to another episode of mine centering around bizarre children's media. In this episode, I'm going to be discussing a storyline from the children's television program, The Sarah Jane Adventures. Without further ado, on with the review. A couple of episodes ago, I discussed this show briefly as part of my three-parters. I discussed this storyline at a bare minimum, but mainly focused on a different storyline named The Day of the Clown. The reason I refer to these as storylines is because The Sarah Jane Adventures is formatted in two-parters, which did not help my overactive imagination as a child. Season 1 of the show centers around Sarah Jane Smith, who is a companion of the Doctor during the 70s. She lives on a street named Bannerman Road, and with her adopted son Luke, neighbour Maria, and their schoolmate Clyde, they save the world from alien threats, and on occasion have help from an old friend. The episode opens with Sarah, Luke, Clyde, Maria and her father Alan going to the skateboarding park, and Maria takes photos of them to keep the memory. Sarah suddenly gets a chill and says this:
"Somebody just walked over my grave."
When they get home, Maria wants to head over to Sarah and Luke's for a moment, and Alan jokes that he is suspicious about why she hangs over there all the time. In the attic, Sarah brings out her alien supercomputer, Mr. Smith.
Mr. Smith, I need you.
This was always really epic to me as a kid. I don't know why, but then again I was like 5. Mr. Smith prevents a meteorite from hitting the Earth on Sarah Jane's orders, saving everyone without anyone even knowing. Luke goes to make a cup of tea, and Sarah gifts an alien object to Maria. It's a puzzle box, and Sarah says that the alien that gave it to her just said to remember. Maria struggles to solve the box, and it's really giving me Hellraiser vibes. We then get a shot of this fucker. This thing terrified me as a child. Its design is absolutely awful, and the way it acts... ugh, you'll see later. Maria falls asleep holding the box, and after having a nightmare that night, discovers something extremely disturbing. Her father doesn't recognize the name Luke, and instead of Sarah Jane, a woman named Andrea Yates is living across the road, preparing for her birthday party. When she goes to talk to her dad, he has no idea who or what she's talking about, and when she tries to look through the photos she took the day before, Sarah Jane and Luke are nowhere to be seen. Instead, there's Andrea. Clyde isn't really close to Maria at all, as they only became good friends after fighting aliens, so when she tries to call him, he thinks she's insane and just fancies him or something. Maria tries to warn him about the incoming meteorite, but he hangs up on her. Maria goes back to what is supposed to be Sarah Jane's house. She tries to call Mr. Smith but receives no answer. There is simply a mirror there, making Maria look even more insane, and Alan and her leave. Alan shows Maria a bunch of photos of them and Andrea.
Look, that's us outside the day we moved in. Andrea came over and gave us a hand.
Maria just ends up frustrated and confused at her dad not taking her seriously. She tries to show him evidence of Sarah Jane's existence, but only finds a post commemorating Sarah Jane from a woman who would be around her age. This is such a creepy concept, and you can tell how confused Maria is at this whole situation. They go to the library and find an old newspaper article from 1964 about a 13-year-old girl named Sarah Jane Smith who fell from a pier. Her classmate, Andrea Yates, had witnessed it. Maria notices the names being switched while her dad doesn't, and she hears Sarah calling to her for help. This causes Alan to grow very concerned, so Maria lies and pretends to no longer believe it. Instead, she goes to confront Andrea about the incident.
This isn't your house! This is some kind of time gone wrong! Because in my world, the way things should have been, you died!
Andrea goes up to the attic, only to find the puzzle box, and this episode's villain, the Trickster, appears in the mirror. She agrees to get rid of Maria as to no longer deal with the guilt of what she did to Sarah Jane. Maria realizes the box protected her, and Andrea distracts Alan, while the trickster's servant, the Grask, comes to collect Maria. Alan picks up the box, putting him in a time warp, and when he comes to, Maria's mother has no idea who Maria is. Meanwhile, Maria is transported to 1964 where they play banging music.
Yeah, you really got me now. You got me so I can't sleep at night.
There, she meets two young girls around her own age, one of which introduces herself as Sarah Jane Smith. Maria tells them she has travelled through time, and while the other girl, Andrea, brushes Maria off as crazy, Sarah Jane seems to actually believe her. The Grask comes to collect Maria again, and the girls explore the pier. Maria is left in limbo where she finds present-day Sarah Jane. Alan starts freaking out about no one remembering Maria, and quickly realizes it was the puzzle box that helped him, and that Maria was telling the truth. The trickster appears to Sarah Jane, and tells her that he has also caused Luke to cease to exist, and that he has done all this simply for the purpose of creating destruction and chaos, as that is what sustains him. At Andrea's party, Alan appears cold, making Andrea uncomfortable. Clyde receives a call and turns on the news. A report is being given about a meteorite heading for Earth. Alan remembers Maria's warnings, alarming him. He agrees to help Andrea with something in the kitchen, where he confronts her about his missing daughter. Andrea brings him to the attic where she tells him what happened. She was a boisterous, overconfident child, and on the day of the accident, she tried to cling on and Sarah tried to help, but in the moment the trickster arrived and made an agreement with Andrea to trade places. The meteorite gets closer to Earth, and Andrea agrees to send Alan away. He tackles the Grask and uses his snare to free Maria. He tries to do the same thing with Sarah, who appears in the mirror in the attic, and tells Andrea that if she calls off the deal, it will save Earth and her son. Andrea agrees, allowing Sarah Jane to subvert the meteorite. This is an extremely dark and chilling episode. The whole idea of being a child in an accident and knowing that you're going to die while not being able to be saved or save yourself was extremely scary to young Soapy. Unlike The Day of the Clown, I did not go back and rewatch this until I was much older and avoided most episodes with the trickster while growing up. The characterization in this episode is top-notch. I think making Maria the one who remembers Sarah Jane is very fitting for her character, as she has always been curious and not one to back down when confronted. Alan also does behave like a loving but concerned parent when he thinks Maria is having a breakdown, which makes him more likable, even if his reaction is as frustrating to the audience as it is to Maria. Andrea's character does make sense as well. It fits that she was the more outgoing one out of her and Sarah Jane, but her immature antagonistic attitude is a good reminder that she is only a child, and even an adult would go with the save myself option if given the scenario. It's also quite nice that we get some more backstory to Sarah Jane's character, with her always being academically successful, curious, and open to experience, demonstrated by her believing Maria. Having her go through experiences like this as a child, as well as her being an orphan, also makes her originally wanting to travel throughout space make sense. The meteorite effect wasn't too great, but it was the mid-2000s, so you can't really blame them. It's not like this was Son of the Mask. The Sarah Jane Adventures wasn't the only show that I noticed did this, but I like how the episode titles are puns on other media, this episode being a pun on the 1962 thriller, Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. Well, I hope you all enjoyed this video, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave your thoughts in the comments down below. And as always, thanks for watching.
Nothing like a polo to ease my mind. With polos by my side, I'll always shine. The blue and green ones are my favorite kind, but I'll eat the colored ones from time to time. Cause polos is life, 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 polos is life. Sleep all night and then polos is life.